Hello everyone, welcome to the Edge of Listening channel. Oh wow, everybody, I just want to say a big thank you. A big thank you to my crowd that has been with me since the beginning, because guys, your thumbs up has meant that my channel has exploded. I've had like something over 3,000, I think, views of the step one. And, you know, and out of that, I've gained, I think at last count, it was just over 200 subscribers in like a week, like a week. And I can only do these every weekend. So, I've been watching the subscription number go up, and gosh, I think I even felt a little bit of stage fright when it came to today. Anyway, I've got so much good stuff that I'm going to try and get as much actually done, because a lot of you guys seem to really like what I'm saying. So look what I've been given while during the week, and so I've got so much to bring forward for you that Spirit really wants to tell me about. Each one of these is more steps. Anyway, I'll get forward with this. A quick disclaimer before I get going on my notes, and here are my notes. I do not belong to any particular church or religion. I do not advocate pushing you towards any religion or thought ethic. I am only telling you stuff that Spirit has told me, and I'm just sharing it. And so for those of you that, you know, take on board what you want to take on board, and you know, disregard if I talk about church or I talk about God. It is, and that word, I know it triggers a lot of you, and I understand that. Please don't let it, because I'm often telling stories that are, and I'm telling them in a way that's like a parable, so that you can glean out of that the message that is held within. Now, I've been very nervous about this particular step. I've not actually wanted to do it, and I've had constant conversations because I just don't want to do it, because it makes me out to be some sort of pigging messiah, and I am not. The reason why I was kind of told to say these is to learn by example. And as I say to my kids all the time, you know, you got to listen to me, because I've done everything wrong all my life, so that you know, it sets an example so that you don't do that. And the things where I have got it right, yeah, take notice of those too, so that can, you know, help you. Right, so I'm a pigging walk. So basically I'm just I'm just cleaning my glasses so that you can you know, hear some of these stories, and hopefully Spirit will talk to you through them as I tell you them, and give you inspiration, whether it be something I do right or something I do wrong. I love the Holy Spirit, and I class the Holy Spirit, or I'll interchange it and call it Holy Spirit or guide or God or creator, because I don't really know who or what this is. They don't really care. I mean, hand on heart, a lot of things that we think about religion and how we do things, they really don't care. And it's only a name we put on them, right? So, yeah, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But a lot of the stories that I have are in my past, and I was in the church for 50 years. Well, that's a lie, 48. I left 2 years ago, and sadly will never return. But, you know, my stories, a lot of them are at a time where I was in the church. But, you know, thankfully, God still spoke to me, even though I was there. So, right. And when I talk about God, I don't talk about any particular God of any particular church. You know, you can place in there whatever you feel happy in, whether it's, you know, in a mosque, whether it's in a temple, whether it's in, you know, your local group. You know, I'm talking about source light. I'm talking about creator, the head of all things. And Holy Spirit just said to me just now, the head of all things that splays outwards. It goes out and touches and affects everything that it manifests, and it manifests onto these things. And that's really what we've got to focus on. I was given, oh my goodness, I was given this, and it just, this is the flat version of it. And he showed me, or he, you know, he, she, it, showed me the 3D version as I was kind of doing a video on this that I scrapped. Right, that's my disclaimer. It's very long, but I'm sorry. But I felt with so many of you that just come in that don't know my heart and haven't read my, haven't listened to my other videos, I felt it important to say. Right, okay. Right. So step 4 then. The power, the immense power, guys, of savouring the moment. It's immense, this power of savouring. I can't say that you know, enough before I read out what I'm going to read. And I will be putting pictures up here so you don't get too bored. Right, so I was cycling home one day, and I think I was in about my 20s, in heavy city traffic, and I was going down a hill at high speed, enjoying the breeze. I was enjoying the sensation with my guide, and I was thinking to myself in quite an absent-minded way, really, I wonder what would happen if I came off this bike at this speed. I wasn't worried. I was just being my usual inquisitive self, imagining what it would look like. So I was picturing me being thrown from the bike and how far I might go in the air before I landed. I amused myself, yeah, amused, savouring. I amused myself with this thought for a minute, and then I carried on my journey. About 5 minutes later, probably 4, I arrived at the bottom of the hill, thank goodness, and my wheel got stuck in this like little track of literally about this much, where my hands are. And where the roadworks hadn't met up together, they'd left a gap, and so my bike stopped dead. So my bike went over, my back wheel went over, and I flew over the handlebars, flying for about 10 or 12 feet, which felt like slow motion, I can tell you. And I glided, thankfully, straight onto a hotel's marble frontage, you know, on the pavement. So, and I kind of looked like Superman because I had my hands up in the air, my legs outstretched as much as I could because I knew what was about to happen. So as I glided to the front entrance of the hotel, incredibly embarrassed and very winded. I cannot tell you, I've never been that winded. And I lay there trying to gasp for breath. And the importance of this situation was not lost on me, folks. I spoke to my guide, you know, and I had this facial expression that came to my mind, and it was one of like eyebrow raised sarcasm. That was clever. We had a very brief conversation as people rushed over to me and trying to help me to get up, and I couldn't get up, I couldn't breathe. And for me, it was the final straw. I didn't ever do that again on anything negative. So, you know, with me, it's never been a drudgery from that day onwards, I can tell you, to think only on possibilities rather than possible calamities. But it will eventually, I can tell you, if you follow this line of thinking where I'm taking you, it'll make you very averse to negative presumptions from yourself or from others. Now, another story from a different perspective, bringing home this power of savouring the moment. I was married to a lay preacher. We'd gone to Bible college together and stuff like that in my late 20s. And I'd married him, or rather he married me, because God had told him he would marry a spiritual woman who lived next door, and we'd be like this dream team for spreading God's love. But I wasn't his type. He didn't really like the look of me. I mean, I'm not ugly, trust me, I'm not, but I just wasn't his type. And he kind of he kind of saw me as a burden that he wished to unload. All of which he told me on our honeymoon. But he was too afraid of what people might say if he backed out of the wedding. And he was also afraid of disobeying God, which is ridiculous really, but he was. So he felt he was stuck with me. Now, as someone who was naive at the time to think I could win him over, I stayed for a further 6 years. Most nights he came to bed hoping I'd be asleep and just wish I would die somehow and wither away. Anyway, I did try to leave, but I allowed the church to pressure me into staying. And we both agreed to eventually, once I tried to leave finally, you know, really plucked up the courage, and I told the church, and they said, oh, you're going to go to hell if you do. And, you know, at the time I listened to them. But we agreed to have counselling, and a couple from a different church came to our house. Beautiful couple, I must say to them, beautiful couple. I would say God really moved through them that day, because when they came, he did all the talking initially, and I just kind of sat there very silent. I was probably at the end of my rope at that point, and they turned to me and they said, you know, Rachel, you've not said anything. Is there anything you'd like to say? I just kind of said, he wants me dead. He doesn't want to go through the embarrassment of divorce. He fantasizes savouring, yeah? He fantasizes about being a widower. They kind of looked very shocked at me, kind of possibly disbelieving, but they said, has he told you this? And I said, no, the Holy Spirit told me that's what he thinks. They asked if this was true, and he hung his head and nodded. Bless him, really. You know, thinking about this, it was probably because he was a bit scared of what else God was going to dob him in for. Anyway, they were understandably quite shocked, and they told me to leave the house as soon as possible. Anyway, sadly, I kind of needed that permission from them, and I saw them as part of the church. And you know, why am I telling you this story? I didn't want to tell you this story. I can't tell you. I didn't want to tell you this story. Okay, he died about 4 years later after that incident, leaving a widow who he loved and she loved him. Oh my goodness, sound far-fetched, sound like a fluke. I have seen similar stories play out, and I'm sure, you know, you guys may have done too. So, you know, suffice it to say, this taught me a very big lesson. I never, ever wish harm on anyone either, ever. Now, he had 4 years to change his feelings. He had 4 years to manifest this situation whilst in the marriage. And well, all in all, he had 8 years, really. His refusal to face his feelings had a direct impact on his future. Now, you know, in The Secret, you know, most of us have listened to The Secret. They will say, you know, we're given this long rope in which to hang ourselves with. It's a long rope, you know. You've got time to readdress your initial feelings. Now, my higher light, my higher being, the one that I love most and adore, because it's always been with me all my life, has said to me, Rachel, yours is short. Yours is short. You really have to be very careful. But the vast amount of people that I know have a very long one. So please, I was worried this might trigger you guys. But, you know, this is what's wanting to be said. This is the power of savouring. Bless him. Anyway, I learnt to take responsibility for my actions, you know, from this. And why am I wanting, you know, to kind of go through, put myself through all of this and tell you? Right, hold on, let me pick my notes up again. Okay, I found where I am. So, my ex and I, we used to joke that if he was really mean to me, it wasn't a great match. We would have been a great team if he got his feelings into check, because he used to kind of say to me, Rachel, you don't understand, you don't realise that when you're picking up the boys from school and walking home, I drive sometimes an hour out of my way just to watch you. What is that about? And yet he was so mean to me. You know, what is that about? You guys out there, you might be able to understand what that's about. I still haven't really figured that out. But he'd tell me that as if he was hinting something. But he was so jealous of my gifts. He couldn't stand the competition, and there was never a competition. I just wanted to be part of a team. Anyway, but he used to, if he was mean, he would like stub his toe, or he'd hit his head on something, he would walk into something or trip over something. And this was spirit sort of trying to wake him up, trying to say, focus, this is not what you do, trying to give him a message. And spirit does that. Honest to goodness, guys, you'll stub your toe. And if you ignore those feelings, spirit will do other bigger things, you know, escalate and trying to get your attention. There's a wonderful story, I think it was with Dolores Cannon, and she says a similar thing. I try to stay away from a lot of gurus because I don't want them to interfere with what Spirit's telling me. But I have listened to Dolores Cannon, and she said there was a guy who came in, and he was, you know, sort of close to death, really. You know, they'd been told he'd got cancer, and it kept coming back. But he had such a hate and animosity towards his ex-wife, and they'd been like divorced. He'd remarried, And he's sat in Dolores Cannon's, you know, office with his new wife saying this stuff. I hate her so much, you know. So you know where I'm going with that story. But he wouldn't give it up. He wouldn't give this hate up. He wouldn't give this particular feeling. And so my husband was kind of warned, you know, change what you're feeling. Where am I? Yeah, so this kind of stubbing his toe became a bit of a running joke between us. Yeah, I mean, I loved the idea of him, and I would have at any point forgiven him for all of this. Well, I did forgive him, but you know, I was always expecting more of him. Right. Yep. I think he just really thought that he wanted to be the patriarchal head of the family, and he just didn't like, you know, he is a little bit male chauvinistic, what can I say, if you haven't already gotten hold of that. But right, so one last story. Oh gosh, this is a doozy, guys. This is a doozy. You'll get a lot out of this. So I was washing up whilst we were in Bible College. Actually, I was washing up while and he was away on a speaking engagement. And as I was kind of enjoying the process, and I was looking at, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I felt God just say to me, will you go to the poorest church in the poorest housing estate in the poorest area of England to help bring love to these people? I stopped washing up, obviously. My fingers were still in the water, and I was picturing this church. It was in a grubby street, I tell you, and there was litter everywhere, and it was just grey everywhere. It was just horrid. And I thought, I looked at this, and I said yes. Seriously, I undertook this offer very, very seriously. And yeah, so, and then I carried on washing up, you know, after saying yes. And I grew more excited about this possibility throughout the day. I kind of, you know, I got more and more, I savoured it. I got more and more excited about what this could be, and it would be such a wonderful opportunity. Well, my husband came home that evening, and he told me that he'd been keeping a secret from me, and that he'd actually really gone to this church and had a meeting with them, because they he'd been there several times, I didn't know, and that they'd offered him the placement of being their pastor there, but he'd turned it down because he didn't think I would like the placement. Why am I telling you this? Can you think? Oh gosh, we make decisions every day based on how we feel. Now, a friend thought that he was probably being a bit chicken, and was most likely using me as a scapegoat, and you know, they were probably right on that. But you know, I still see that this was an opportunity missed, because he didn't see the value of his emotions, and he was kind of led by his emotions instead of his capabilities. You know, these are stories about missed opportunities, because fear has gotten in the way. You know, I've written something down, and I'm just struggling to look at it. I asked specifically to my higher self, to God, why I was to tell this story. And I was told, in spite of your situation that you were in, you always put yourself in appreciation. That's why you heard and he didn't. Wow. Oh, we all have so much to give each other. If we can only move out of the way of our feelings, we have so much potential, so much love to give to others, to people you know and people you don't. An open heart is all you need. Spirit knows that the vast majority of us want and desire meaning in our lives, to have an impact on making the world a better place for all. Savour your qualities. Savour them. It's okay. Savour them. Savour your gifts. See them expand. See what gives you joy and savour those thoughts. Let them expand. You'll be amazed how Spirit will open up opportunities for you to explore those. And I've found in my experience that our Creator has a knack for sorting out two problems with one solution. Be picky what you savour. Choose what is good to savour and do it often. Well, I'm going to leave it there because that's all I was given for this particular one. I hope it blesses you and you stick around for step 5. Okay, guys, love you. I really do. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up. I honestly had stage fright doing this. I've been really nervous about doing this because it's like I've got 200 and odd people now looking at me rather than 21. All right, love you all, guys. Do well with savouring. Bye.